Alright, who gave the Super Mario Bros. Movie permission to pop off this hard?
With the Mario Brothers, we get all the fame.
I mean, it's currently sitting at $871 million in the worldwide box office, with a $146 million opening weekend, not only making it the highest grossing video game movie of all time, but the highest grossing movie of 2023 so far, beating out both Marvel and James Cameron in a freaking fortnight. Mario, stop styling on them, they're already dead. And of course, when a movie manages to make a massive amount of money, the makers must minister to the masses by milking out more. Heck, if you saw the movie like I did, you know they're practically egging us on to make predictions about the franchise's future. So you know what, Nintendo? Game on. Let's do what this channel does best, or at least above average most of the time, and pen ourselves the perfect Super Mario Bros. Movie sequel. And maybe even a potential threequel. I've only got 2 rules for this write-up. First up, we'll be going light on story, but heavy on fun and references. It's the formula that worked in the first film, and it's what old Shiggy Me values most in his products, so that's what we'll be prioritizing. And number 2, we don't have to worry about being super strict to the game's lore, since the movies are clearly their own separate canon. Heck, this isn't even the first time they remade the plumber's origin story. You ever heard the tale of Mario being raised by 2 Hammer brothers after emerging from a shooting star space peach? I love Japan. Anyways, if you have any ideas for a potential Super Mario Bros. Movie sequel, feel free to leave a comment below. But for now, let's reference the plumber from Game Boy to Switch as I wind up my writer's hand for this pitch. Batter up, y'all! Let's start with the obvious first question. Who's going to be our big bad for this story? Well, since Bowser already had his time to shine and will likely get a much smaller role in the sequel, I say it's time to shine the spiteful spotlight on another Mario character. My favorite Mario character, in fact. The one, the only, Wario! And Waluigi. Sure, why not? Yeah! Yeah, let's face it, literally everyone expects this to happen. Even Jack Black himself has stated that he'd enjoy seeing a big screen rendition of Wario's unique brand of villainy.
Oh, everyone likes their own brand, don't they?
And considering that these 2 buddies are technically human, and it's been established that our human Earth and the Mushroom Kingdom are completely different worlds in this movie, it makes sense for the duo to start off as average Joes, just like the bros, but instead of stumbling upon the mysterious green pipe while trying to be heroes, these 2 are gonna seek it out intentionally for more nefarious purposes. Let's set the scene. The movie would start off with a news broadcast recapping the events of the first movie. This can either be done with a combination of captured live footage from the Bowser fight and interviews with the brothers themselves, kind of like the intro to The Incredibles, or my favorite, we see the bros putting on a crude little puppet show, recapping their adventures for a group of kids in their community, and the anchors report on it, saying something like, "It's been 7 months since the Turtle of Terror incident, and the fascinating story of the plumbers who saved the world continues to inspire children across the globe, with the brothers themselves making many a live appearance since the incident." Also, just for an extra Easter egg, the puppets that the bros use for their little show would be cutouts of their incarnations from the Paper Mario franchise. I'm just gonna put this here because we're definitely gonna need it later. Anyway, we see the news broadcast is being watched on the phone of a normal, overweight human dude who immediately grunts, shuts it off in anger, and even throws the whole phone out the window. The camera pans out from the window to show a brand new location. Diamond City, aka Wario's home city from WarioWare. Yes, there will be references to WarioWare. It's Nintendo's greatest franchise, come at me. Anyway, cut back to what's obviously going to be Wario, and we see that he's a minimum wage employee at a gaming company. He'll probably have a normal name before he becomes Wario, so we'll just call him Walter. So Walter's fellow programmers and designers are all doing their jobs properly, working on the precise projects they were assigned, but Walter constantly keeps going off task and off model, using the company's resources and time to make these ridiculous, out there looking games, all starring a dashing young mustachioed hero who always gets the gold and the girl. But mostly the gold. And then he saves them on a personal flash drive, probably to sell or just play later on. If you've ever played WarioWare before, and please tell me in the comments if you have, I feel so alone, you'd know that not only is Wario a game programmer in his off time, but his microgames are always insane, stylistic, and extremely egocentric, which is exactly what we're gonna reference here. However, Walter's boss finally catches him one day and tells him to knock it off. He's not getting paid to do his little vanity projects. The boss chews Walter out and leaves him off with a warning. All the while, Walter manages to steal his wallet without him noticing, because of course he does. As the workday ends and Walter counts his new wad of cash, the guy in the cubicle next to him is watching the exact same news report on his phone, and Walter overhears that in memory of the Mario Bros. Selfless efforts, that very pipe that began the duo's journey towards heroism has been renovated into a tourist destination where people from across the globe can visit and see where it all started. Obviously, no one's allowed in or out of the pipe without permission, and it's sealed up tight to make sure of that, but folks can still take pictures and read about the brothers' history on plaques and such. At first, Walter is extremely angry, but then he gets a terrible, awful idea. He reaches for his phone to call his friend, but when he realizes that he threw it out the window before, he just swipes the phone from the guy next to him and rocks out. So in just one scene, we've established all of Wario's key personality traits. He's greedy, he's vain, he's a huge thief, and he's extremely jealous of Mario. And who would be the celeb to voice this talking tub of lard? Danny DeVito, baby! Yeah, I know Jack Black said he wanted Pedro Pascal to play Wario, but nah, there's no one else who could possibly do it besides Danny. Next, we get our first glimpse at Wario's friend, which is obviously revealed to be Waluigi. Though he's not Waluigi yet, so we'll just call him Jimmy. We get a pan-up shot of Jimmy brashly showboating and swinging his racket around, similar to his first ever appearance in Mario Tennis. And we see him just serving lead down the court, smashing that ball left and right without letting a single point get past him, while some obviously fitting music plays. The crowd goes wild as they chant in unison, "Jimmy's number one! Jimmy's number one!" Only for us to realize that it was all in Jimmy's head, and in reality, he was just playing racquetball against a wall the entire time. Jimmy sighs in defeat as he swipes through the contacts on his phone, and we see that he got in touch with the heads of multiple different tennis teams, but every single one basically ghosted him after responding with a simple, "We'll keep in touch." Just then, his phone rings and he excitedly picks it up, only to hear that it's just Walter inviting him over for dinner that night. He heads over to Walter's really dingy, gross-looking apartment just as Walter's takeout arrives at the door. 10 garlic pizza pies delivered by Mona of Mona Pizza. The two of them sit down to eat, or more like Walter sits down to eat since he ends up having most of it, and he tells his friend about his genius idea. If all it took was one trip through that green pipe to turn those nobody plumbers into cultural icons, then what's stopping the two of them from doing the same? He even gives Jimmy a rough schematic he drew up, showing how it's possible to break through the security in the dead of night. But he can't do it alone, so he needs his help. Jimmy's a little unsure at first, but then Walter lets out a massive speech to motivate him, kinda preying on Jimmy's low self-esteem. Isn't he sick of always being rejected and ignored? Wouldn't it be nice to have his dreams come true for a change? Show the world how wrong it was to constantly turn its back on Walter? Jimmy? So, what do you say? Obviously, Jimmy falls for this charade hook, line, and sinker. The two of them lock hands in a dramatic fashion, and we even see the wind spout up and blow their hair around like it's some kind of action anime. Only to reveal that the wind was actually just a massive fart from Walter. And Jimmy says that he's gotta stop eating garlic. So not only do we see that a lot of Wario's greed comes from the fact that he was dealt a really bad hand in life, but Waluigi's core personality traits are shown off here as well. While he can be very vain and full of himself, just like Wario, it's been said many times before, even by Charles Martinet himself, that self-pity is by far Waluigi's main character flaw, which will be displayed prominently throughout his screen time in this sequel. Also, in later games, it's been shown that Waluigi can actually be a pretty decent guy when push comes to shove, unlike Wario, who's mostly just a greedy jerk 24/7. And trust me, Waluigi's moral compass is gonna come into play later on, so just you wait. As for his voice actor, Danny DeVito! No, I would have picked someone like Jim Carrey, but he's currently out of the acting game at this point, so we'll go with Willem Dafoe. He can be both really scary and extremely sympathetic in the same performance, so I think it could work. Anyway, we finally fade to the Mushroom Kingdom, and we see a happy montage of Mario enjoying his new life there. Running through the fields with his arms in the air, saying hi to all his friends and loved ones like Luigi, Peach, and Toad. We see that the Lumily from the first movie has actually set up a little stand called the Luma Shop, where he sells all manner of things, including some Mario Bros. Brand signature merch, like hats and overalls. We see that Toad has been made the official second in command of the Mushroom Kingdom, thanks to his bravery and leadership from the first movie. We see Mario run past the pipe where he first entered the kingdom, with two Toads standing guard just in case something tries to slip in or out again. They've got spears, emergency bags of power-ups, and they also bought a couple of Lumily's hats since they're both huge Mario and Luigi fans. And the whole thing would be scored by our first pop song of the movie. Let's say, Top of the World by the Carpenters. Hey, it worked for Shrek 4, why wouldn't it work here? During this montage, we also see the kingdom setting up for a special celebration. Not only is it the anniversary of Peach's arrival at the Mushroom Kingdom, but it's also the annual arrival of a special galactic entity called the Star Comet. For some reason, this massive, beautiful comet has been flying past the Mushroom Kingdom every year since Peach arrived. The Toads see it as some sort of omen, that Peach was always meant to be there, and when it flies past, it's a sign of good luck and prosperity for the kingdom's future while they're under her rule. And yes, before you ask, that is meant to be the Star Comet from Mario Galaxy, but instead of appearing every 100 years, it appears in the sky once a year. You'll find out exactly why later on. Also, I could totally see Lumily making a joke like, maybe if we're lucky, the comet will finally crash down and kill us all! Aw, as morbidly adorable as ever. Cut back to Walter and Jimmy, who managed to make it to Brooklyn and are double checking to make sure they have all the supplies they need for their little heist. Crowbars, lockpicks, rope, and of course snacks for when they finish the job. They both sneakily head down to the pipe where the night guards are patrolling, but right before they can give them the old stealth takedown...
I told you no garlic before the heist. It's Brooklyn. You're never gonna find a better garlic slice than right here. How much did you eat? Enough to know it's amazing. You're gonna give us away. Hey, at least I held most of it in.
But obviously the guards hear their little whisper squabble and end up chasing them deep into the Brooklyn sewers, far past any of the barriers that were set up for tourist safety. The duo hides within the pipes until they think the coast is clear, but that's when they bump into an unfamiliar but adorable little face. Yoshi! Yup, remember that Yoshi egg from the end of the first movie? Well, it hatched sometime before the sewers were renovated, and the poor little guy has been lost and wandering the endless maze of pipes for a long time now, going in circles, hiding from the scary humans, and subsisting off the rats and water main leakage he finds down there. Clearly, the poor dino is starving and in desperate need of some real food at this point. So when he smells the snacks that Walter brought in his little heist kit, he immediately perks up and starts poking at the bag. Walter initially tries to stop him from eating his food, but the moment that Yoshi is fed, he starts to cling to Wario like he's his mama or something. Yoshi excitedly lets out one of his iconic noises like Wahoo! Or Yoshi! Which echoes down the sewer tunnels and leads the guards right to them. But before the guards can attack, Yoshi protects his new mama by shooting out his tongue, slurping up the baddies, and laying them into eggs. Walter and Jimmy are awestruck at what this little dino can do, and waste no time using it to their advantage. They use Yoshi to gobble up the rest of the security perimeter. Locked doors, cameras, other guards, whatever they have down there. All swallowed whole and stuffed into eggshells. The path to the pipe is now cleared, so the trio jump right in. Cut to the two Toads guarding the pipe again, probably arguing about their hats, since that's just what animated guards like to do, I guess, as Walter and Jimmy come barreling out of the pipe and slam into a nearby mushroom. The Toad guards run after the duo, trying to arrest them, so they cheese it and run away. They walk past all these insane enemies and landmarks, kind of like a more high-octane version of when Mario first came there, until eventually they're cornered. The Toad guards each grab a mushroom from their power-up bags to look more intimidating, and they demand that Walter state his business. But before he can say a word, he uses his sleight of hand, or maybe commands Yoshi, to snatch a mushroom from the Toad's bag and eats it himself. At first he's just gonna punch him in the face, but as fate would have it, eating that mushroom was the tipping point for his stomach. All that garlic he ate before, all the tumbling around in the tube, he was bound to rip one eventually. And when combined with the added oomph of the super mushroom, we get to witness the birth of the first ever Wario Waft. And it is majestic. With the Toad guards knocked out and probably scarred for life, Walter tells Jimmy how amazing this is. If these weird things can make his bodily functions that powerful, imagine what it would be like if they found more, if they consumed more. They could run this entire kingdom if they played their cards right. They'd become even more powerful and renowned than those greasy buffoons who got there first. Just imagine the look on the Mario Bros faces when their entire world gets turned upside down. And with that, Wario grabs the two hats that the Toad guards were wearing, rips off the letters, and literally turns them upside down. And thus we get the official debut of Wario. And Waluigi. Sure, why not? Yeah! They grab the rest of the power-ups from the Toad guards' bags, and thus their evil conquest begins. Cue the flashy montage of Wario, Waluigi, and Yoshi slowly taking over the land one kingdom at a time. First, they track down a Yoshi flock, maybe by following one of their group stampedes like we saw in the first film. Wario steals as many Yoshi eggs as he can carry, and once they all hatch, he does the same thing he did with his first Yoshi, and tricks them all into thinking he's their mama by giving them food and love and whatnot. Plus, he's already got a member of their species to vouch for him. So now Wario has an army of Yoshis by his side. Great! They go from place to place, starting off with small little villages and slowly escalating to major kingdoms. They clean out every one of their power-up supplies. Mushrooms, fire flowers, ice flowers, cape feathers, pea balloons, super crown. Okay, maybe not the super crown. I definitely do not need to see what a female Wario looks like. Can you at least let me finish the sentence before you show that? Ugh. In the end, the three of them leave every civilization with basically no means of fighting back, and then capture all the residents, put them in Yoshi eggs, and take them on the road as war prisoners. All the while, Wario just consumes and consumes, getting stronger and stronger. Heck, at one point, he ends up eating so many power-ups, they start to do some interesting things to his body. No matter how much the enemies try to harm him, he can't be crushed, he can't be burned, he can't be frozen, he can't be blown up. It's like the power-ups are altering his biology or something. A sort of you are what you eat kind of deal. And yes, this is a direct reference to the power-ups from the Wario Land series, where Wario is able to take so much abuse it's not even funny. Okay, who am I kidding? It's freaking hilarious. He also finds out that this kingdom apparently has garlic in the form of garlic pots, so he chomps down on a few of those suckers to release some nasty rear-end nukes if he sees fit. Of course, as Wario grows more powerful, his more egocentric, controlling, and dominating side starts to show. He starts being abusive to his Yoshis like a slave-driving tyrant, making them carry all the power-ups and imprison creatures over mountains and valleys without rest, something that Yoshi clearly notices and isn't super thrilled about. He ignores any of Waluigi's schemes, ideas, or suggestions to make things easier, and clearly cares more about his newfound power instead of his own best friend, using me and mine way more than us and ours like he used to. In fact, if you really want to go for a unique reference, you can have Wario literally hold up a crazy cap store from Mario Odyssey, which are all over the place, and have them create the duo's signature yellow and purple outfits as a commission. Heck, they literally have both Wario and Waluigi outfits in stock in the games. It'd be perfect. Also, if he decides to attack the Jungle Kingdom, he can use the Kong's Kart Garage to build his signature Wario bike. And in typical greedy fashion, he doesn't make carts or bikes for anybody else. The Yoshis still have to walk on foot, and maybe he just gives Waluigi a little sidecar on his bike. As for the obligatory pop song, I'll go with Running Down a Dream by Tom Petty. It's rock music which always suits Wario really well. It literally involves him chasing his dream of being rich and famous, and I always thought that it sounded like they were saying running down the drain, which is technically what they did to get there, so that'd be kind of funny.
Yeah, running down a dream.
Cut to Princess Peach watching all of this chaos on the overworld map and seeing kingdom after kingdom fall to the Fat Man. So she summons Mario, Luigi, and Toad to help her in this dire situation. Toad is given temporary charge of the kingdom with instruction to evacuate all the citizens, while Mario and Luigi are sent on an important mission to the Wooded Kingdom to retrieve some of the native poison you can find there. It's so dangerous that even touching it can be potentially fatal. If they can find some of that stuff, dip a few mushrooms in it, and then force feed one to Wario, he's destined to go down regardless of how many power-ups he's got on him. As for Peach, she says that she'll be going on an ambassador mission to a certain far-off land to see if a fellow princess has any power-ups or manpower to spare, because with the level of threat they're about to face, they're gonna need all the help they can get. And with that, the trio all go their separate ways, each with a vital role to play in this endeavor. They must prepare for what's to come. They must be armed and ready for Wario's oncoming overpowered, overweight onslaught. And that is where we are going to end things for today. Yup, this script actually wound up being over 16 pages long, and sadly a guy can only do so much in a week, so I'm gonna make this a two-parter. Feel free to subscribe if you want to see my production pipeline pump out a part 2, and if you have any ideas for changes, enhancements, or even an entirely different premise in general, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and I hope to see you all real soon.